All right, so we are back, and today's video, quite frankly, guys, I've never seen anything like it in the combat sports scene. We've seen a lot of shit on this channel, and I thought it was damn near everything until yesterday. The Zone and Misfits Boxing X Series number 4 is coming on January 14th. We know this, and the card is stacked already with KSI main eventing once again, but that's not where Mams Taylor and Misfits Boxing stop, because FaZe Temperrr is back on the card. Now, as excited as I am, and I'm sure you guys are as well, the question, of course, has to come, well, who is Tommy fighting? It's like asking Logan Paul to explain how you hatch one of your crypto zoo animals you spent $20,000 on, only to have a plain fucking egg with no use sitting on your computer screen like you just made a Twitter account. In other words, no one knows. But when a mystery needs solving, you guys come to the right spot. Investigator W.A.D.E is on the case. So who is Temperrr fighting, and is this idea interesting, different, creative, building hype, or dangerous? The breakdown. Let's go. Okay, so let's set the scene here. Misfits Boxing puts out this poster of Temperrr versus a mystery opponent on Twitter. And immediately the mystery starts. Who could it be? What weight class? What's happening here? And while I thought all those same things, I looked at it as, okay, cool. This is dope. They're not letting the fans know who Temperrr's fighting so that when that person comes out on fight night, we all get surprised. It's the WWE pop, that WrestleMania moment, the surprise return of Stone Cold, the glass shatters, the people go crazy. And like I said, on the surface, this looks great because in my mind, I thought, okay, us the fans, the public, we won't know the opponent, but Temperrr and his team will, and so will the opponent. They'll prepare for each other, and by fight night, we'll get the pop we want as the public, as the audience, and then both guys will go and have a great scrap. That's not what's happening here either, at least to what we're being told, because Mams Taylor, the matchmaker at Misfits Boxing, went on to clarify that not only do we, the public, not know, but that FaZe Temperrr, I can't even believe I'm saying this, signed a contract to fight an opponent he has no idea about. And Mams Taylor confirmed this. When someone asked on Twitter, Temperrr doesn't know who he's fighting? Mams responded with, not until he's in the ring and sees him coming down the ramp. And I just made a comparison to WWE a second ago, but the WWE, professional wrestling, doesn't even do this because both participants in the match know who's going to be there. It's the rest of the audience, like me and you, that get worked. This is taking it to a whole nother level. This is telling Tommy, hey, you're gonna fight someone in a month. We're not gonna tell you who it is, what their style's like, what their record is, what their experience is, but we'll tell you the weight to make, and then you'll find out on fight night. This is fucking wild. And yes, listen, I have done the research. I have reached out to everyone that you guys would want me to reach out to say, is this real? Is this happening? I'm not exaggerating when I say this. No one's talking. It's radio silent. I have no idea what's going on here. Let's say this is true. Let's say Tommy doesn't know his opponent and they actually set this thing up. One, we have to address this. It's a dangerous fight for Tommy. He's essentially walking into a fight blind. And if Tommy has no idea the risk or reward of this thing, it's not going to even out. If Tommy goes in and loses, the person that beats him is not going to get the credit for beating him because Tommy didn't know who the fuck he was fighting until 5 seconds before they got in the ring. And if Tommy walks through the guy they put in there, especially if the guy has no name, that might not do a ton for Tommy either. And we'll all go, well, cool, he won that fight, but who was the dude he was fighting and why were we supposed to care? This is why Misfits Boxing has to do this whole setup, mystery opponent, reveal, whatever it is, perfectly, and I think that they are. I have nothing to prove this, so again, speculation at its finest, but I think the whole premise behind this, Tommy not knowing who his opponent is a bit of a hype job to get the fans involved more, but I think it's a cover-up. I think Tommy knows who his opponent is. Maybe not the specific person, but maybe a list of guys that he can prepare for. Because yes, it would be ballsy, and yes, it would kind of go right up the alley for what Tommy does. I mean, he signed to fight Overt Flow when he didn't know it would be Overt Flow in the fight. He signed to fight Slim on 2 weeks notice. That's ballsy. That is a guy that just wants to fight. But let's say I'm right. Let's say Tommy does know who it is, or at least he knows there's 3 potential opponents and he's gonna fight one of them. Now let's get into the mystery of who it could possibly be. This person has to have 3 big categories going for him. One is a big or somewhat big name, one that people will recognize and pop for as he walks down to the ring, because that's essentially the biggest part of this outside of the fight. The people have to already care who the person is. Number 2, the guy does have to have experience. You can't just toss out someone with a big name that's never put gloves on before, because it kind of diminishes the whole thing we're doing here. Tommy taking the big risk and fighting someone he's never seen. The person won't hit the same, and the idea won't either when he's standing there with the 1920 stance ready to square up and Tommy drops him in the first 5 seconds. So it needs to be someone with similar experience, someone that's had a fight or 2 to have the same level of experience that Tommy does. And the third one has to be someone Misfits and DAZN is looking to have as a continued mainstay on their card, because you don't bring someone in for one show, they potentially beat Tommy, who has been a guy that's been on this broadcast and been on this promotion for a couple of fights now, then that person goes away and you've killed one of your bigger stars. This has to be someone they are also looking to build, so whether Tommy wins or this person does, there's a storyline and potential matchups for whoever wins the fight. Let's start with names that you guys may think it is, but I don't think is going to happen. Number one is Gib. I don't think Gib is the guy here. While Gib was offered the Temperrr fight, apparently from Mams Taylor's own mouth, he said that they offered him that fight for $250K. Gib already turned that down. So if they're going to do this on short notice, the number would have to be higher again, because why would Gib do it on short notice for the same price that he already turned down? And again, it's probably going to come down to that payment and notice of the fight. Yes, Gib coming in, the crowd would go absolutely fucking ape shit, but I feel like if you just toss Gib in against Temperrr, you waste an opportunity to build a card around Gib and potentially the fight we want to see the most, him and Slim. Jay Swingler is another name being thrown around, but I don't think that's another one either. I do know that Jay wants to come back and fight soon, and while it would make a lot of sense experience-wise, and Jay's a big name in the UK, and knowing how long Jay isolated himself to prepare for his first main event against Churdleys, it feels to me like he'd want a full camp, not 4 weeks notice to come in and fight a guy like Temperrr, who is, again, dangerous. So that leads me to who it could possibly be, and those are really three names in my opinion. It comes down to these three, and that is JMX, King Kenny, and Alex Wasabi. JMX has wanted to fight Tommy for a while now. Temperrr being a US guy, it does make a lot of sense for the UK audience to get behind one of their own in that fight. I do think it's competitive. I think they're around the same level, and the winner of it does get that big boost for their next fight in Misfits. Problem with this is I do still think Tommy has some idea as to who his opponent's going to be. I don't think he's going to walk in blind, and I've never heard him talk about wanting a fight with JMX. I've never heard that. The second name's King Kenny. This one I could absolutely see happening for the same reasons we talked about with JMX and some. One, they've already fought. Kenny, I assume, wants that rematch to get that win back. Again, he's a UK guy that you could already have at the venue. Hell, you could have Kenny there at fight week acting like he's not a part of the card, dapping people up, doing interviews in his street clothes. We know that him and Daly are pretty fucking good actors. They're also very good about not letting things leak out of that camp, and they have good poker faces. This would make a lot of sense. Think about the pop you would get if Temperr's standing in the middle of the ring, he's got his gloves on, he's swaying back and forth, the lights go down, 50 Cent comes on, a beam comes up from the stage, Kenny's standing there, and the song hits, Many Men. The fucking venue would come unglued for that. Absolutely. And again, the fight would make a lot of sense for Temperrr. It's a guy he's already beat. He knows how he fights. The only reason I could see it wouldn't happen is if Kenny said, you know what, I've done that fight and I'm just not interested in going back and rematching it right now. I'm doing my own thing on this trajectory, fighting other guys, and potentially maybe even Kenny wanting to fight on a February and March card and preparing for that in a full camp. The short notice thing is going to be a turnoff for a lot of guys because they want to have a full camp for their fight, and rightfully so. I understand that. And then we have Alex Wasabi. This one's interesting. I would not have thought that Alex would even be a possibility based on the relationship he has with Misfits Boxing after the entire KSI debacle. But then a couple things started running through my mind. One, the random out of nowhere call out from FaZe Temperrr to Alex Wasabi, or Pusabi, after they had kind of prepared together and even sparred before their fights at Showstar. Temperrr, after his loss to Slim, went right after Alex.
Alex Wasabi, come get these hands, bro. You fumbled the bag with KSI. Clearly that shit didn't work out for you. Pusabi, if you want to get in the ring, you can hit my line. Otherwise, I mean, listen, we all know you don't want this work.
Which I look back and went, okay, you know, Temperr's just trying to get a fight, trying to get himself back in there. It makes sense. Go after some names that are around that same skill level or people he's familiar with. But then I kind of stopped thinking about it, and it didn't really come to my mind again until Sensei and I interviewed Alex Wasabi on our own show, The Breakdown. Watch Alex's body language, his face, when I start bringing up the Temperrr fight and the potential for that fight to happen and what he would think about that fight. Just look at the way Alex answers this. Alex. Yes. What's going on with this beef between you and FaZe Temperrr? What has happened there, bro?
Let me hear it, dude.
What is that, dude? Listen, I know that's Sensei's
brother over there, and I love Tommy.
I don't know. I mean, it was weird, right?
I thought y'all were boys. I was like, oh, what happened?
He wants to fight. I mean, he just wants to...
And I think he
respects me enough to be like, oh, this guy would be a good fight. I want to fight this guy. So then he tried to start some stuff.
We filmed that interview before there was any announcement of Temperr having a mystery opponent or anything like that. So the fact that Alex's face and his answers, just the way he responded, it didn't occur to me then, but it is now. Maybe Alex knew something before we all did, and maybe he is this mystery opponent. Again, it makes sense. Another guy around Temperr's skill level, another guy Temperr is familiar with, so he wouldn't just be walking in blind. And it's a perfect ruse because everyone thinks Misfits hates Alex Wasabi, and quite frankly, I did too. But if you remove that and talk strictly business, Alex is a guy that you can build on this card should he beat Temperr. And if not, you send Temperr out there to beat the guy that Misfits thinks purposely cost them a main event. It would make things interesting, almost like Temperr is the hitman to go out and take Alex down once and for all, or Alex comes back over to the UK and shocks everyone again. Whew, okay, so those are my thoughts. That is where we leave it. I think there's 3 potential names. I do think Temperr knows somewhat who it is. You guys let me know down below. Did I nail this thing? Am I completely off? I don't have those answers, and apparently neither does anyone else. So on January 14th, if Misfits is to be believed, as the opponent walks to the ring and not a moment before, that's when Temperr's opponent will be named. And that alone is when I guess we'll find out.